Hello YouTube peeps. We are back in Washington and it is actually a lovely day today. It's not raining, it's not clouding, it's not hot. Hey, great. Whew, that's new. So we are here in my 61 Dodge D300 dually one-ton pickup that I have named Casper. Now the truck actually isn't white. It is Mustang Gray is the name of the color through Dodge. So, what is the plan for this? Well, let me show you. So the truck actually runs great. Let me show you here. Excellent. What we got here? Poly 318. Unknown miles, although the truck looks like it only has 75 on it. This engine runs great. The problem is, it has so much blow-by, and it burns so much oil. Like, when I drove it home tonight, I got it about a 150-mile drive. It burned 4 quarts of oil. The draft tube over here looks like a steam cleaner going down the highway and it smokes out of the tailpipe. Gotcha. Then a couple little things, power brakes, a dual master cylinder, which isn't actually hooked up yet. That guy there doesn't work. So this truck has the cast iron torque light, A466. And it worked fine when I got the truck. See, I can go first gear, second gear, third gear, and then reverse. So what happened was, I had it parked in the backyard and I went to move it to mow. So I drove it forward and mowed, and then half hour later or whatever, 20 minutes later, I went to back it up and it wouldn't back up. I had no reverse. So I didn't really drive much after that because I had no reverse. And then when we sold the house and I went to drive the truck here, I suddenly had no third, and second was very soft. So we towed it down, and it's just been stored here, since we moved and everything. And so now I need to get the thing put together to take to Oklahoma. So here's the truck. So on this truck, the parking brake, instead of being on the back wheels, is on the back of the transmission, and it's burned up. So there's nothing to actually secure it because these transmissions don't have a parking pin. So this axle will be going into it. It's doing 60, 48 gears, 8-lug parking brake. This is my 8-lug disc brake front axle will be going into it. It's a LA318 instead of the Poly. It's low miles out of the Winnebago. 727 automatic, low miles out of the Winnebago. And I've got the calipers, brake pads, Edelbrock carb. This is the original Mopar shifter. I was going to mount it to this ammo can, but somehow I can't find the lid. Hopefully one of those drive shafts will work, otherwise it's going to be big money. And training filter got ruined. Those are my manifolds and ancillary parts. I've also got a full wiring harness here that's much better than what is in the 61. I mean, at least the 61 doesn't even have a fuse box. I've got a hell of a fuse box here. But I probably won't mount that. I'll mount that later. Just for now, I've got all this other stuff. All these little bits and pieces I've been collecting over the years for this job. But this is what I have to do in order to transport it. So yeah, I need to drive this one across the country next. It's definitely not going to be as comfortable of a drive as the Chevy was, and the Chevy wasn't comfortable to begin with either. So what next? Well, tomorrow I have to work. So we need to get the front clip pulled off of this truck, pull the engine and tranny, swap in the new engine and tranny. Gonna have to probably modify the transmission mount. Oh, that kind of stuff. And then swap the front axle. And then flip it around, swap the rear axle. And then start working on like the drive shaft, shifter cables, wiring harness, you know, all that stuff that needs to be hooked up correctly. Make everything run, and hopefully the drive shaft issue will take care of itself. And we'll be on the road. The wrecker body, I'm going to put a tongue on it and haul it like a trailer. And then once I get it out there, I have friends that can help me pull it off the frame stub and stick it on this chassis. But that's the job. We need to get started. We're going to start with the 318 first, clean it up, paint it, make it look pretty, open up the transmission, make sure it looks all right. Everything is just so damaged by the moisture in the air. It's sad. But hopefully we'll be good. Yeah, okay. And so that's it for today. We'll get some work done tomorrow. We'll get a lot more work done this next weekend. So we'll talk to you then. All right, so here we are at Casa de In-Laws. I got the 318s about ready to go here. I do need to made it to the transmission. I really debated buying another alternator, like a reman alternator, just so it'd be pretty like the rest of the engine, but meh. I just got done changing that seal. I need to change the output seal, and I need to change the filter and pan gasket and adjust the bands. We are trying to pull the core support, so I need to get on that. I need to get underneath it and spray penetrating oil all over U-bolts and stuff. Get back on that. I might be getting a better hood for this thing. This one is bent really bad from hitting the windshield. If you look at the rain gutter, you'll see those little dents there. Those are from these ribs. And I think I fixed it. The hood had just a really crappy little nut and bolt put in it. You can see the damage there. Realistically, I could fix this hood, but if I can get a better hood affordably, I'll go ahead and do that. That's a nice thing too, the way it opens up. So why are we doing all this? I talked about it before. I probably talked about it a minute ago, but it's been many minutes since I've recorded, so this engine runs great. It runs absolutely great. You've heard it. But it's so tired. You know, 150-mile trip, it burned 4 quarts of oil. The blow-by was incredible. Like, it used to have a steel draft tube on it, and the previous owner tried to rig it up like a true PCV. He had it all hooked up, and it would just choke the engine out. It wouldn't run with a crap. So put a piece of hose on it, made it back into a draft tube. That looked like a steam cleaner going down the highway. And then it smoked, you know. So this engine's just tired, it's done, it's whipped. The transmission, on the other hand, it worked fine. This is a cast iron torque plug, or load flight, an A466. This is the last year of that transmission before they went to the 727. So this transmission, it worked fine, and I had the truck out in the backyard, and so I pulled it forward to mow behind it, and when I went to back it back where it was, I had no reverse. If I revved it up really good, it would kind of, you know, you could feel it. It's like the pump didn't have any pressure, and so you revved it up, and then it would kind of, and then it would move. You know, I did that 2 or 3 times, and then nothing. Like now, if I push it, the reverse button, the RPMs drop. You can feel the torque take up, but it won't move. So, okay, you know, I drove it around the block a few times, which, you know, was kind of a pain in the butt unless you had enough room to turn around. So when we went to bring it here, I tried to drive it, but it had no third gear. It did the same thing. I went into third, and if I revved it, it would catch, but it only did that 2 or 3 times before it probably wiped out the clutches. And now there's no third, and second gear feels soft, so we're done. I've got, this is a Poly 318. Polyspherical combustion chambers, semi-Hemi. I mean, the new Hemis are technically Polys, but people call it a wide block 318, a big block 318. These things weigh about 700 pounds. You can bore them to 1.25 inches. This is an LA 318. This is what replaced that one on 727. This is a lot lighter, easier to get parts for. It's not correct, and frankly, I like the Polys better, but I've got this. It's got 60,000 miles on it. It ran perfect. Never got hot. I did swap into the power brakes from the Winnebago, but the booster's bad. And I got the master cylinder on, but I don't have it plumbed correctly. I just have the line plugged off. And this thing is junk. It's coming off. Old Midland booster. Axle-wise, this has this goofy 6-lug pattern. These are 1959 Firestone wheels. Probably more commonly used on Fords. Now this is not a split rim. This is a lock ring wheel. There's a difference. And the tire shop still don't want to touch them. But I think they're borderline unsafe because I don't know how much scale is built up in that groove. And then of course the tires were brand new. I mean, look, they still have all the nibs on them, but they're rotten. They'd probably make a trip though, believe it or not. These are the original wheels, the 3-hole, really hard looking. Now, this rim isn't too bad. Tire's actually flat, but the other one had rusted out in between the rivets, and it actually broke off. Steer tire shot off into the atmosphere, never to be seen again. I even went back to try to find it, and wherever it went. See this one? Yeah, you can see it. You can see it bulging out. The backside are worse. So we're swapping the axles over to the standard 8-lug wheels. These are 17.5 tires, so they're kind of goofy. That is a Dana 70 rear end with 488 gears, and from what I understand, it has 13 spline, which I don't care. That doesn't make any difference to me. 488 gears are ridiculous though. This is Dana 60 out of the Winnebago with 488 gears. But this truck, the parking brake is on the back of the transmission. There is no parking pin. There's no parking position. So when you stop the truck and put it in neutral, if that parking brake doesn't work, there's nothing holding the truck from rolling. And that's what we have. There's nothing holding the truck from rolling. Those brakes always burn out. This has a parking brake in the drum. 8-lug wheels. So you can get parts for it anywhere. And the best thing, the front axle, 8-lug wheels, disc brakes. And you got, those shocks are practically new, and there's a sway bar set up. That's all going on this truck. So we're gonna swap all that over. Front axle, rear axle, engine tranny. We're not gonna do the wiring harness right now. I've got the harness out of the Winnebago. It's in perfect condition, never been hacked on. but I don't have the time to deal with it. As soon as I get this truck done, the sooner I can get back home. So I'm gonna do it. Once this thing is on the road and I drive it around and it feels good, I'm gonna take a week. I'm gonna keep driving it for a week, and then make sure that everything's good. In that week, I'm gonna start working on the wrecker body. So I don't have that here with me, so I can't really show it to you, but I do have those photos you just saw. What I'm gonna do is it was a Ford F350, about a 78 or 9. The truck itself was junk. I mean, the wrecker body really isn't great either. But I cut the frame right behind the cab. And the intention was to pull the wrecker body off and drop it on this. Problem is, nobody out here has the equipment, and for me to rent the equipment, you know, they want like $1,000 to do it, or, you know, they might want less, but they want at least that retainer. So what I've decided to do, plus I've got a lot of parts to drag back to Oklahoma with me, you know, stuff like I've got another gas tank to put in this truck. I'm not going to put it in before we leave, so I don't know where it's going to go, you know, all that kind of stuff. I got another radiator from the Winnebago. I've got stuff to take back with me. I got my little wagon over there, you know. So what I'm going to do is put a tongue on the front of the frame stub. I'm going to put decent tires on it, fix the lug nuts and studs, and I'm going to make a trailer out of it and haul it out there, because I've got friends out there with forklifts. I've got a friend with a lift, so I can, you know, just put the thing up on his 2-post lift and back up this truck underneath it, you know. I've got all kinds of resources out there. I've got nothing here. So in that, it'll free up the flatbed, or what's left of it, so I can haul those parts back and be okay. Legalities wise, you know, it won't be registered. It's not a trailer. It's just kind of the way I'm transporting it. I don't think anybody will care outside of Washington. Hopefully nobody does. I'm not really trying to cheat or defraud any state or government or anything. I don't have the time to make it into a trailer, and since it's just going to get scrapped once I get home, I don't want to deal with it. So that's where we're at as far as that goes. But while I'm driving this and proving it, I'm going to do all that work to that wrecker. And once it's ready to go and wired up, lights working and everything, I'm doing my laundry, packing my bag, and getting the hell out of Washington State. I'll be home. And then hopefully we won't have any issues with it. And we shouldn't. That engine was great. That tranny was great. You know, the axles are fine. The only issue I can see me having would be that transmission. And that's the weak point. It's an automatic. But since it worked fine, I can't imagine it's going to fail. When I opened it up, there was no mud in it. It was clean. There's no metal in it. So, you know, we're gonna be good. I'm gonna make sure the throttle adjustment's good, and we should not have any issues. And then I gotta go through the flatbed because it's pretty rotten, so I need to knock off the really rotten wood so it doesn't fall off while I'm driving. As you can see, like especially this piece over here against the side is really bad. You know, I just got to get all that loose stuff off. I need to organize the cab. You know, again, the wiring harness and everything, that can all go on the bed, get strapped down. So that's where we're at for this job. So today and tomorrow, I'm gonna bust my ass. That transmission will be done in an hour, or less than an hour. And then I can move on to this, start pulling bolts on the core support, get the radiator pulled, get all the parts off of this thing, and get back, you know, get to work, you know. Maybe tomorrow we'll get that engine picked up, get the training mated to it, get it all buttoned down, get it put up in the corner. I gotta also put the front axle up in the corner, which means I gotta move the rear axle over here. Oh, that's another thing I want to talk to you guys about. Now, maybe I'm just being anal, maybe it's my anxiety, whatever, but I see a lot of people on Craigslist selling, or Craigslist Marketplace, whatever, people storing, selling axles, and they always do this. They always store them with the pinion pointing straight down. Now, again, I might be worrying about it too much, but I can imagine, you know, just normal wear and tear. There's metal shavings in the bottom of that axle, especially since you can't really clean it unless you take it all apart and mop all the oil out of it. Nobody really does that level of maintenance to axles until they have a problem, but just imagine regular wear and tear, regular amount of metal shavings, and then you put the thing nose down, all that's going into the pinion bearings. And so then when you put it in service, the pinion bearings start to go bad because they're full of metal. Don't do it. This one's always been stored pinion up. So we'll have to make sure when I move it over here, it'll be pinion up. Just keep that in mind. Don't do it. Don't point them straight down. So there's the inside of the pan. There is some glitter in there. And there's these little things that almost look like teeth in a timing belt. And it does smell burnt. But definitely a lot cleaner than what I would expect for this thing losing reversed in third gear. I don't know. The bands aren't broken. I checked those and they're in adjustment. Oh well, we'll see. We did finally get the nose off. It was not fun. This bolt here, everything was completely rotten around it. All this acid damage here from the battery leaking. I'm going to reuse this cooler and reuse that fan. Alright, well right now I need to get back underneath it, get that pan back on it, and then pull the cooler lines off. Alrighty, well we did get quite a few things accomplished yesterday. Well, take a look at this real quick. Okay, need to get this fan off, cleaned up, painted. I would like to use the clutch fan, but I don't think it's any good. I'm going to save that water pump as well. I'm kind of going against my normal plan here. So normally whenever I do, like I pull an engine from something and put it into something else, I almost never put it in with the old water pump. I mean, even if it looks good, I always change the water pump. For whatever reason, laziness, money, time constraints, overconfidence, I don't know. I haven't done that to this. So that is the original 1973 water pump. The bearing feels great. There's no sign of any kind of leakage. What I can see of the seal looks great. It's got 60,000 miles on it. I didn't change it. Part of the reasoning why is because of this guy and that guy, and you know. I probably should have changed it. They're not that easy to get, which is more of a reason to change it now than later. But what okay. That's not good. Anyway, this one, I think I changed this one 4 or 5 years ago, 4 years ago. There's no play in it, no leakage. I know that if I'm in the middle of my trip and that water pump starts leaking, I won't be able to just go to a parts store and get one. I'll have to wait a day or two. So I'm gonna take this one with me. If it starts leaking slightly, I can leave the radiator cap loose so it doesn't build up pressure, and then it'll probably be fine. But if it goes real bad, I'll have to swap this pump on it en route. Not one of the wiser choices I've made, but I'm pretty confident that I'm not gonna have any issues. These hoses aren't very old. We're gonna reuse those. I'm gonna save that thermostat housing for the DeSoto, because I've got one of these poly 318s in the DeSoto. As a matter of fact, you know, you can see the top end on this engine was rebuilt very shortly before I got it. So there's maybe 1,000 miles on the top end. However, this being a 61 and 62, they changed the head design, is what I found out. I was going to put these heads on the DeSoto 318, but they won't work. So this will be going. Carburetor's getting saved, distributor's getting saved. Alternator bracket's getting saved because if I remember correctly, the alternator bracket is part of the exhaust manifold, which I'm also going to save. Pulleys are getting saved. Fuel pump's getting saved. I don't need to buy that because it works. That's another thing I usually change, but I've also got that one, which I'm going to actually use. I'll save that. That's the high volume, rebuildable dealio. Coils getting used on that engine. All that stuff's going to get cables, spark plug wires, all that's getting transferred. So I need to get underneath it and unbolt the motor mounts. We're going to unbolt the mount from the frame bracket. Come out. When I get it out, we'll pull the brackets off the engine, put them on that engine. The transmission mount is broken, which is fine because the one on that 727 is great. I need to get the cooler lines off. I think that's it. Yeah, I need to get that fan back here and paint it. However, realistically, the only reason I would keep that fan is for the correctiveness. But I mean, I'm putting an LA318 in this truck, so correctiveness has gone out the window anyway. This fan is what I'd rather use, but I don't know. I think it's bent. So you got a little ding in that blade, which isn't a big deal, but and you got that, which is still not really a big deal. You know, I think I'm going to use this. I remember it was tight. It wasn't noisy. So this needs to get painted too. But that one's going to cool just fine. But it's going to be a parasitic drag on the engine. Not that I'd really notice anything, but this engine's going to be spinning about 3,000 RPM the whole way. So I think that will cool better and help. So yeah, I'm gonna get started on that. Alrighty, here we are, another evening. I have to work tomorrow, so I can't get too much done in the morning, but there's the 1961 Poly 318. From what I understand, these things are about 700 pounds. And the cast iron torque flight, the A466, are really heavy as well. And we're using an air-powered block and tackle hooked to the ceiling, so we're watching that real close. And there's the LA 318, a lot lighter, a little more efficient, and the 727, which is a hell of a lot more reliable than those. So we're about ready to stab this thing. I did want to take this out and pressure wash it, but it's such a pain in the butt to get it in and out of the garage that screw it, I'm just gonna do it. This cross member has me a little worried. Somewhere in the reaches of my brain, I seem to recall them saying you have to cut that out, or in this case, I can unbolt it. So my plan, even for tonight, before we call it good, I'm gonna try to stab it. If it goes in there and it clears that cross member, we're good, and then I'll just deal with bolting everything up. Maybe tomorrow, a little bit over the week. If not, I need to pull it back out. We got to pull this cross member out. Strength-wise, I'm not worried about it. We've got that cross member. Now, looking at these two transmissions, I think they're basically lined up. Motor mount. Yeah, so they're basically lined up right now. Motor mount to motor mount. Now, as you can see, the transmission mount isn't quite there. Looks like we're off by about 3 inches. Tranny body is a bit longer. This is about 2 inches longer, which is in our favor. Trying to find a drive shaft for this thing. I need to get cotter pins on that kick down before I put it in, because I don't know how hard it'll be to get to once it's down there. I don't think it's going to go, but we're going to find out. And then I got to deal with the exhaust flanges. I got to have some made and try to mate them to my existing exhaust pipes. That one's got a big, huge dent in it where the axle hit it. I don't know. We'll find out. We're going to come back after dinner and get another run at it. This is our motivator here. As you can see, my father-in-law has his tow bar hooked to the trailer hitch and pushing it into the garage. So this is why pulling it out, pushing it in, it's just a pain in the butt. Alrighty. Well, it is Tuesday. It's time for me to go to work, but I wanted to show you where we left off last night after we got everything done. So the engine stabbed, motor mounts are bolted up, and they lined up just fine. I just have to go through, get the nuts on the bottom of it. I need to tighten up the nuts and bolts here at the brackets. The transmission mount is going to be a problem. It's off by about 3-4 inches. I pretty well knew it was going to be an issue. I can't get down there. Anyway. So basically what we need to do, the 727 mount sits up about here. So we either need to take the cross member out and re-drill it and bolt it in, which is going to be just a bitch. Or we're going to get a plate of steel, drill holes, and put it on there, which isn't really ideal, but that's what we're going to do for now. This bastard right here, this cross member, I wasn't sure if it was going to clear. And you know, I asked some of the people that have done this before, and the answer was basically if you're putting an automatic in a truck that had a stick shift, you would have to torch that out because most of them I think are welded. This one was bolted. But nobody could tell me going from the A466 automatic to the 727 if it would be a problem. So we just tried it. We went ahead, stabbed it in there, and this is what we found. So yeah, we had to pull it back out, unbolt that, put it back in. So right now, as I said, it's like I said, I need to put the nuts on the motor mounts, tighten those bolts up. I need to work on this linkage. I'm missing the little clip that goes on the end here. So I'm just gonna drill it, put a cotter pin in it. Need to work on the transmission mount. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of wiring because we're gonna use the later alternator with the later voltage regulator. This is still, I'll tell you what, this engine's a hell of a lot lighter than the other one. I'm gonna have to go over all the nuts and bolts and stuff before we put it in there, make sure everything's torqued okay. I'm gonna put the later model starter on, one from like a 90s Dodge. They'll bolt right in. Spin like 3 times as fast. They're lighter. It won't have the cool sound that the Hamtrak Hummingbird had, but meh. So that's where we're at right now. I gotta get going to work. I didn't get anything done today, but tomorrow I'll get back on it and start getting those minor things taken care of. But that's it for now.